Let me thank you, George. Uh, Now I'll start and then I'll pass it to the Fannie Lou Hamer members who are on the call. But I'm Teresa Elamine. I'm in Columbus, Georgia, and I'm one of the organizers of the Fannie Lou Hamer branch. And I want to show my beautiful bouquet. I came home yesterday, and George Friday and Shante had sent me this beautiful bouquet, and I walked up to my door, and there it was. So I want to pass on to Deidre to introduce herself, since she's a partner on the steering committee with me. We love it.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Deidre Whittlesey, and I'm here in Columbus, Georgia as well. And I am part of the Fannie Lou Hamer branch here in Columbus.
And now we'll go to Danita Gibson Lloyd, who is my dear daughter that I've adopted, trying to steal her from her mother, Danita Gibson Lloyd.
Hey, Mama T, and early happy birthday to you. We are just getting off the road, and so we'll be listening in. Always excited and happy to be a part of anything you're doing, as it talks about the advancement and helping others get what they need and what they deserve. So good, wonderful Sunday afternoon. Let's have a great call.
Thank you. So now Donna from the far north.
Oh, yes. Hello, I'm Donna Peel from Cape Cod, and so glad I've never been to one of these meetings before. I'm delighted to be on the list and so glad to be here and saying a little early happy birthday to Miss Teresa.
And now we'll go with my comrade, Sister Shante McLaughlin, who sent me these flowers.
I can't wait to eat some curry with you too. It's not gonna land on my shirt the next time though. I'm gonna actually let it hit my mouth. Happy birthday, Queen Teresa Elamine. I appreciate you. I love you. I value you. You have made me so much more of and I don't like less and more, but you've made me more of a human being in this year and a half, 2 years of knowing you than I have in the 40 plus years of living that I've had on this earth. And I celebrate you and honor you and the legacy that you're leaving for me in my life and my children's lives and the lives that I touch. They're forever touched by me knowing you. So thank you. And I'm here in Atlanta, organizer, I guess founder of the Atlanta Metro branch of WILF. Thanks to Teresa Elamine seeing me on a Zoom just like this and saying you need to be an organizer. It was with Southern Center for Human Rights. I was looking for my children that have been trafficked in the system, and so much has happened. I just spent the weekend, I know this isn't this cover, but I just spent the weekend with the fathers of those who have lost their kids to gun violence, the Michael Browns, the Jacob Blakes, the Tamir Rice, the Oscar Kane, and I wouldn't be in this conversation without Teresa Elamine and George Friday. So Black Liberation Caucus, regardless of what WILF US says, this is where it's at. This is the legacy that we're going to leave, and we are going to change the world. And I thank y'all for letting me be on this call and allow.
Well, thank you, Shante. Shante is one of the members of the Black Liberation Caucus strategy team. And now we'll go to my longtime comrade, Rita Gonzalez, based in Trinity, North Carolina, on her way to Puerto Rico, I hear, Puerto Rico. So Rita, please introduce yourself while I mute myself from this phone ringing.
Okay. Well, first, Teresa, I want to wish you much love, peace, blessings, and many, many years to come. And plans have changed. I'm going back to Mexico now. It's just my son Garvey wants to keep a closer eye on me. And Puerto Rico is just a little too far away. And I'll be there in August 1st. I'll be gone. I'll be in Ensenada, Mexico, just 2 hours from the border and an hour from Tijuana. And I will still be in communication and attending these meetings. So I'll do what I can from where I'm at.
Well, that's wonderful news because there is a Wolf section in Mexico. So you can join the Wolf section in Mexico and you'll have dual membership.
Oh,
So
nice.
now, thank you, Rita. So now we'll go to Mary White, another long time person in the movement hailing from the Triangle, Durham. Please introduce yourself, Mary White.
All right. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm so pleased to be here with you. And I want to definitely wish our dear sister and fighter in the movement a very, very happy birthday. She is a very precious person with so much insight and, forward thinking for the movement. And we appreciate her. And long may she live and continue to flourish. Thank you so much. I am from the Triangle branch.
Thank you, Mary. And now, last but not least, someone I've known a long time who likes to call me Mama T too, Danita. And since he's one of the organizers of the new DMV DC branch, so we're so excited about that. So I'm gonna ask Daryl to take a couple of minutes and tell us a little bit more about him and the different things he does with the Green Party, et cetera. So please do a real introduction, Daryl Moak.
Well, I will, but before I do any of that, I must join in with my sister comrades here and celebrate you on this milestone birthday. I suppose every birthday in this country that we survive is a milestone for each of us. And you are definitely an amazing light, a great source of inspiration, a good friend. And even when we're fighting, we still loving each other. And that's such a great thing to be able to have that and be able to separate between differences of opinion about things and still relational, family relational status doesn't change because we have differences of opinion about political or cultural things. But I just love you dearly. And I could go on. We could spend an entire day or two or three. We're gonna have a Teresa Elamine conference to talk about you, but I'm not gonna do that. I'm just gonna celebrate you and wish you a very merry birthday to you, a very merry birthday to you. It's great to see you, and I hope that you'll agree. A very happy birthday to you.
Well,
So,
let me just say this, Daryl, because when I say do a little bit, see, Daryl is also a singer, and he comes and he leads a chorus. So Daryl, if you could just
I'm gonna do that. Yeah, I'm gonna do the
name
introduction.
at least 4 of the things that you do.
Okay, well, it'll be more than 4, but that's okay. Cause
Quick.
Involved in I am a part of the Green Party of the United States of America. I am the co-chair of the National Black Caucus. I also am the chair of the DC State Green Party currently, and will now officially, as soon as we get notice, be appearing on the ballot in November for the chair of the DC Council. That is a new thing, but I'm in ministry. I am in ministry here in the DC area. I am also a performing artist. I act, sing, dance, write, direct, choreograph, produce. I do poetry. I'm a single father of a beautiful 5.5-year-old adopted little girl. And I have a 20-year-old that I had custody of, who is not my biological child, but was my legal child, along with a lot of other young people that I have mentored in my lifetime. So they call me dad. I have many of them, and I know that I'm dad because they are always in my wallet. But so I know this is true. But I'm grateful. I'm glad to be a new member of WILF and glad to be a part of SARN as well, and looking forward to the ways that we can continue to grow. I run a nonprofit in the DC area now called Energy Inc. And I also run a program for African-American, bi, gay, trans men, as well as my nonprofit that works on poverty issues in the DC metropolitan area, dealing with mental health, substance use, HIV, other related kinds of disparities that people have around health. I serve as the co-chair of the Places of Worship Advisory Board for the DC Department of Health. And as Teresa mentioned, I'm the director of the Charm City Labor Chorus. And I am completing my doctorate in organizational transformation with emphasis on transformational leadership.
Wow, that's something I didn't know. Well, thank you, Daryl.
Well, I thought I told you that.
A doctorate? Oh, no. I missed it somehow. But last but not least, my partner and sister comrade, George Friday. We couldn't do these meetings without George. So George, let everybody here know who you are and where you are at this moment, if you don't mind.
Sure. So happy Sunday, everyone. Happy birthday, Teresa. I wish I could sing. I can't. You don't even want to hear me try. But I'm so pleased to be among these people here on this Zoom and in the Black Liberation Caucus. And my life has been blessed exponentially by just knowing Teresa Elamine and people like Daryl Moak. I am in the Southern Piedmont branch in North Carolina. At the moment, I'm in Western Massachusetts, Donna Phil. I'm visiting a friend, and it's like 90 degrees here, but I can deal. It's pleasant. I can go outside. It's a lovely thing. I like that transformational leadership, Daryl. Transformation is what I'm trying to focus on and pray about and meditate, starting from personal transformation outward, because certainly there's plenty internally to do. And thank you all for the inspiration you give. And thank you very, very much, my sister, Teresa Elamine, for being living inspiration and living legacy. It's amazing and beautiful. Thanks.
Well, thank you, George. So George, if you could put the agenda up so that we can kick it off with the first item, which is all about what people are in the street about everywhere. Well, actually, we want to review the basis of political agreement. So keep me honest, George. So if you could show the BOPA. The Black Liberation Caucus was founded a year ago, May 22nd of 2021. And George, if you could be so kind as to read our agreements, the basis of political agreement, starting with decision-making, and read all the areas of work so that we know that everybody has heard it. Thank you.
Decisions are made by consensus. We address questions, concerns, objections, and make sure there's no unreadiness before we go forward. The steering committee is comprised of 2 representatives of African descent from each branch, where there are 2 representatives in a branch, and we meet monthly, the last Sunday of the month, this meeting. Our areas of work have been identified as reparations, freeing all political prisoners, criminal justice reform, end mass incarceration, ending voter suppression, free Palestine solidarity, the anti-racist transformation of Wealth US, solidarity with other oppressed peoples of color, universal health care for all, Medicare for all, and immigration justice.
And at this point on the agenda, we ask if there are any additions to the areas of work. The other questions are settled. We do decision by consensus that will not change. And we do have generally 2 representatives. I and Deidre Whittlesey are the 2 representatives from Fannie Lou Hamer. And Danita Gibson Lloyd is on the steering committee. So often we have maybe 2 or 3 members of Fannie Lou Hamer branch in the meeting. And today we have 3 members. So we have 1 member from the DC DMV branch. We have 1 member from the Cape Cod branch. We have 1 member from the Triangle branch. We have 1 member from the Metro Atlanta branch. We have 1 member from the Southern Piedmont branch. George, have I missed anyone?
IAD.
Oh, yeah, I'm sorry, Rita Gonzalez from the Triad branch. So I believe we have about, what, 7 branches? I've lost count, but we have several branches represented. My goal is for us to get to having 10 branches represented at each of our meetings with at least 10 people present. But if we have the 2 members from each branch, that could be a meeting of 20 people. And so that's the goal that we're working on. So thank you, George. Are there any, I will ask again, are there any questions or additions to the basis of political agreement? Well, hearing none, George, let's move the agenda to that horrific thing that happened on Friday. And since most of us here are women, we probably have been paying attention to the fact that the Supreme Court, based in the colony of DC, reversed a 50-year-old right that we gained in 1973, the reproductive rights and the right to an abortion legally. So people are in the streets, unbelievable today, everywhere. They immediately showed up at the Supreme Court on Friday, and they have just been building the numbers all weekend. And so the only way that this decision can be reversed is through an act of the US Congress. The US Congress will have to put a law in place, a federal law that says women have the right to legal, safe abortion. Right now, 26 states move swiftly to deny people the right. So over half the states have denied women the right, and Georgia is one of those states. Alabama is one of those states. Mississippi is one of those states. So across the South, we will see Black women being most affected by this decision. So we're going to open it up for discussion because we have about 10 minutes for this item. Is there anyone who would like to say something about what's happening in your town or what you think about this decision? And if you could just start talking and unmute yourself.
This is Shantae. I actually, on Sundays, I still have my shirt on for WWJD for the homeless. I feed the homeless downtown. And in the last couple of days in front of the Capitol, we've had about, well, today when I left feeding, there were about 60 to 75 women and men outside with their signs protesting at the Capitol on a Sunday around 1:30, 2 o'clock-ish. The news was out. Yesterday, they had in front of a couple of government buildings on Friday were blocked off, like the police barricaded, police had roads blocked off downtown. So it's there's a lot of noise being made. Sadly, I feel as though this conversation impacts brown and Black people more than Caucasian women. And I know it shouldn't be a color conversation, and I'm going somewhere with this. When I saw the protests, there weren't enough people who looked like us there. There were a large amount, like in ours, there were women and men who did not look like us who were able to come together in masses of hundreds. And they were peaceful protests, and they all had their signs, and they all chanted as one. And we really need to step up our game in our own culture to be there with this conversation. I believe that people haven't looked at in the last 10 years, the mass incarceration population has gone up by 700% of brown and Black women. So 700% in the last 10 years. You know, several of y'all know my story of my children being trafficked out of the jail. I feel like this is a way for them to steal our babies, for them to force us into prison, for our kids who don't go to prison or jail. They'll be making babies and forced to make babies and keep babies as babies. And it's going to increase the foster care system. And people don't know that when it comes to your rights being terminated, that is a Department of Treasury decision. The Department of Treasury is who pays for parental rights to be terminated. So when you have these young kids having babies and these poor people having babies that aren't not necessarily wanted, but weren't planned to be in this world, which a lot of pregnancies aren't, we're going to end up set back in a way that we've never experienced setback. And it's going to impact us across the board with mass incarceration, with homelessness, with poverty. You know, they don't even have baby food right now. So how are they going to justify forcing women to have babies when we have a shortage of baby food? Are they going to go back to when we had others nursing our babies? Like, what's going to happen? So that's where I'm at with it.
Thank you, Shante. George is our timekeeper. So we ask people to try to keep their comments to 3 minutes or less. And George and I are the queens of the 1 hour meeting. These meetings are set to go no longer than 90 minutes, but often these meetings end within an hour. And I know that'll make Daryl happy because he's got a busy day. And it's the day before my birthday, and I want to go get me something really great for dinner and come back in because it's 100 degrees here. So are there any others who would like to comment? Because I'm proposing, given the knowledge that Shante brings to the issue as a mother herself, that we start thinking about adding the issue of reproductive rights to the BOPA. So George, if you could put yes, go ahead, Darryl.
I think that's a great idea. I think we should go further than just reproductive rights. I think we should be talking about health disparities and particularly about women's health disparities, Black women's health disparities, particularly Black and brown women. But you know, however it's phrased, you know, I tend to hold back for a minute on this conversation because my actual statement is I can't do what y'all can do. So I have no right to tell you what you should or shouldn't do with your body. So I think you ought to do what you feel you ought to do with your body, right? And so that's kind of where I think men should sit down and shut up somewhere. So that's how I feel about this issue. It's not men's issues to debate and to deal with. This is a women's issue, and women should decide and be allowed to decide for themselves that choice is the only option that encompasses life. If you don't believe in it, don't do it. But don't tell somebody else what they can do. So I'm gonna leave it there, but I did want to ask you, Teresa, because you mentioned going to get something to eat. Can you put your Cash App in the chat for me so I can take you to dinner tonight?
No, because I don't do Cash App. I'm really low tech now.
Oh, do you do PayPal?
No, but when I come,
I got you. We got another dinner when you come back this way.
In September, I'll be there.
All right.
So
that's so great. I just wanted to say real quick that this brings up awful feelings for me. Back in 1970, I was 19. I drove my best friend, who was 17 at the time, over the state line to Massachusetts, to New York State, where it was illegal. We were in a motel. Her parents didn't know where we were. My aunt knew, but she was deathly ill all night. I was petrified that she was going to bleed to death and die. And I'll never forget it as long as I live, and nobody should have to do that. So I just wanted to chime in with that. I'm so upset that I can't stand it.
George, could you put the BOPA back up so that we can see how we can add this? Because we want to wait to make the final decision on July 31st. But as you can see, we have universal health care for all, Medicare for all, but that's not the same as reproductive rights. And I would say BIPOC, women's BIPOC, women's reproductive health, with an R, reproductive health. So uppercase, BIPOC women's reproductive health, and we'll just L in health. So we'll just leave it there for further discussion next month. But that's just a kind of placeholder. I don't want us to try to gain consensus at this meeting, but we can let people know that it's under consideration. Now, can we reach consensus on having this addition under consideration so we can let it sit for 30 days? And then when we come back to the Black Liberation Caucus meeting on July 31st, which is the last Sunday in July, we can actually finalize it. So please let me hear from you. Show a thumbs up or something so I know everybody. So hearing no objections, we will let BIPOC women's reproductive health sit as one of our areas of work. And I do envision us doing a webinar down the road that will include, there's a number of Black women health organizations. So we can make sure that we do a great great webinar in August. So the next item on the agenda is the Will International Congress workshop. And we can be so proud of ourselves because even though the National Board of Will and all of the people of European descent on the national board have made the point that the Black Liberation Caucus is not really a part of Will. And it's the craziest thing because we are all members. So we are members of branches. But what I say is an expression of white liberal racism. The president of Will is saying that we cannot self-organize as people of color. Darryl, can you believe that? The Green Party of the United States supports caucuses and the self-organization of members and our democratic rights. The Congress of the United States has a Black caucus. Every union I know has a Black caucus. But Will has been so historically racist. The president and all of the national board says we don't have a right to do what we're doing today.
We need a strategy to replace people on the national board and get a new president that looks more like. I'm just saying, why are we playing around with folks? That's what's she scared of, Daddy? What you scared of?
Well, Darryl.
Not you, I mean her. What's she scared of about saying we should not have our own like, girl, go somewhere. Woman, go somewhere. Sit down. Here we come. We are coming, and you will get ready, or you'll get run over. Like,
is the controversy over the word caucus?
No, no. They're saying that Black people in this overwhelmingly white organization have no right to organize. So they're objecting to us being an all people of color caucus. That's how backward it is, Darryl. But let's not lose sight of the agenda item. The agenda item is allowing, George and I submitted a proposal for a workshop to the International Congress. And for everybody on the call, if you could click on that account canopy link so you could see because you're a member of WILF, you can register for the International Congress. For the first time, because of COVID, it's going to be all online. Normally, we would be in Australia. So the Australia section is responsible for managing the meeting. However, because it's all online, anybody can pay $15 and join the meeting. Now, the workshop that we're doing, Darryl, is called Equity and Inclusion Section by Section. It is the only workshop that's going to be about building an anti-racist movement. And it's going to happen on July 20th at 4 p.m. Eastern Time. They set it up to make it convenient for me and George. So it's going to be 1 p.m. Pacific Time. So all of the WILF members on the West Coast can also come. So every WILF member in the United States, it'll be at a reasonable hour. For the WILF members in Europe and the Middle East,
I can't see y'all. Did we lose Teresa?
I think so.
She'll be back.
She's still there. I see. Well, I did see her.
The time difference for Europe is about 6 hours, and it's about 7 to 9 for the Middle East and Africa. I think that's what she was saying. I will wait. She'll be back. And I can't text or get a text from her. Darryl, I know you probably can. If it does linger, maybe she's having problems or issues. My phone is MIA. So if there's any additional support needed, please, someone else provide it. I know, Danita, you got her phone to text, and Deirdre, somebody reach out if need be. So we don't want to leave Teresa hanging, especially if she needs any kind of help.
Could you repeat the times again that you're speaking of for
Sure.
that meeting?
The link is in the chat to register for the workshop or the Congress, the International Congress, $15, and you've got it for the whole week. It's a week of workshops and whatnot. Our Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion workshop will be on July 20th at 4 p.m. Eastern. Now, if you were in London at that time, it would be 10 p.m. If you were in Lebanon, 11 or 12. If you're in Africa, 12 or 1. Here's Teresa.
Do you think they'll be recorded so people could watch them even if they're not awake? You know, if it's like in the middle of the night for them?
I'm sure they'll be recorded.
Oh, good.
George, I have an unstable connection. So I'll try to get back on with my laptop. But if I could get knocked off again, George, you can tell what I was trying to tell because you know the whole schedule. Can you do that, George?
Yes, ma'am.
So the schedule is we will open up with a 7-minute video on colonialism. Then the UK representatives will speak for 15 minutes. Then George and I will speak for 15 minutes. And then we'll break open the discussion. And I expect the European descent members in the United States to start talking crazy again. So they have a serious code of conduct. So George and I will just be listening at Darian and the other people who may have enough nerve to say the Black Liberation Caucus should not exist. I believe they're crazy enough to do that. And when they do that, those Europeans from Germany and everywhere are gonna attack Darien and the US section as the most racist section. It's not gonna be pretty, but we don't have to do anything but listen and just let them burn themselves up. And then our wonderful Melissa Torres, who has lost her voice due to COVID, but she comes to these meetings. She's an international vice president, and she's in the US section based in Texas. And the way that the national board members of European descent treated her, she refused to pay dues to the US section. Well, she's gonna bring up the rear with talking about next steps. And that's gonna be extremely powerful. And the tangible thing that will come out of this, Darryl, is that we will present a resolution supporting the UN decade for people of African descent, plus a call for reparations. So in terms of our BOPA and the fact that we're calling for reparations, the International Secretary of Wealth is going to allow us to put in a resolution to be voted by all the delegates. And I can guarantee you that those folks from Europe, and there are 18 sections in Africa. So all of the delegates will be voting on the weekend of July 22nd, 23rd. They're going to vote for the resolution. So we truly are changing the world. So open up for discussion and comments, please.
Can I just ask you, the European Descent Allies Caucus, is that only for European members?
Yes, but that's the next item on the agenda. So if we could finish this item, because really need people to register for the Congress. You will not be able to attend the workshop if you don't register using the link that George has provided.
That's wonderful. I'm looking forward to it.
That sounds great, Donna. Is there anything else on this comment, on this item? Are people real clear that members of the Black Liberation Caucus need to register and be in the meeting? Because I can guarantee you that the national board members and lots of other folks who think like the president who you met on June 17th, you remember her, Darryl?
I do.
Yeah, and so she's gonna be talking crazy. But I will forward you the email I sent her. I may have already included you in the email I sent her earlier today.
I got it.
Great. So you know what I think is gonna happen. And it's interesting because Philip Cole, who is a Black man based in San Francisco, he signed up for the meeting today, but suddenly he did not show up. So I think
you gave him a very nice blessing, so I think he might sit this one out.
Is that what you think is going on?
You blessed him quite nicely, yes.
Okay, thank you, sir. So if there's nothing else on this item, we'll move the agenda because the next item on the agenda is really good news. Because Darian said we could not exist as a Black caucus, I started up the European Descent Allies Caucus, and it is strictly for white people or people of European descent. So if they say we can't exist as a Black caucus, I wonder what they're going to say about the European Descent Caucus. So I put them in a box in a corner. You do see that right there. So the beauty of it all, as soon as I announced the European Descent Allies Caucus, all of our real allies started coming forward. So we have 2 allies in the Southeast, Samantha Turner in the Southern Piedmont branch, and Kim Porter in the Triad branch. We have 2 members in the Northeast, Robin Lloyd in Burlington, Vermont, and Susan Smith in Pittsburgh. We have 2 members in the Southwest, Gloria McMillan and Mary Foster. We have 1 member so far in the Northwest who is in Humboldt, California. Her name is Sue Hilt. We have 1 member in the Midwest in the Des Moines branch, and her name is Janice Hawkins. So we have 8 members out of the 10 that we're trying to get. And trust me, in the next couple of days, we will have that other member in the Midwest and the other member in the Northwest.
You're always thinking. That's amazing.
Well, you know, go ahead, Mary, say what you need to say.
No, I would just say it's an excellent strategy, and I commend you for it. And I believe it's going to work.
Oh, well, it's totally going to work because those of us who are on the all members discussion list, see, that was another victory of the Black Liberation Caucus. Darian said that I could not put information on the all branches list. So we forced them to set up an all members discussion list where I could post as much as I want and we could talk as much as we want. And all of you who are not on that list need to join it. So Daryl Moak, you send a message to secretary@wilfus.org and just say you want to be added to the all members discussion list. Secretary@wilfus.org. That woman, Diane Blay, is the secretary. And anybody who's not on the discussion list need to get on it because that's where we're doing our main organizing. So all of the women that I just named in the European Descent Allies Caucus, they're all on that list. So is there anything else on this item? Because it looks like we're going to be able to end this meeting in an hour. And George knows how much I love the 1-hour meeting.
I'm sorry, Teresa, can you say secretary@wilf-us.org or?
No, it's just WILF-US altogether. So it's secretary@wilpfus.org.
And I'm telling them I want to be added to what?
The all members discussion listserv. It's open to all members.
Okay.
And make sure you sign in and say you're in the DMV branch. You're a member. And so she will check your membership status and she'll add.
I was on it and then got off because there just were, when it first started, there were a lot. I guess I got to get back on it.
Well, you should, Donna. So anybody who's not on it in the Black Liberation Caucus should get on it because what I'm finding is that we have quite a few allies. And you know, when I put out a message just asking who wanted to join the European Descent Allies Caucus, Janice Hawkins from the Des Moines branch, which is the same branch where the treasurer of WILF is located, and she takes a position that the Black Liberation Caucus shouldn't exist. So I know that not everybody in her branch agrees. So George is putting up the Black Liberation Caucus Anti-Racism Transformation of Will Strategy Chart. We started this strategy in January of this year, and it will go for 3 years. So this is very important. We are just coming to the end of the first phase, which was from January of this year until June 2022. George, keep it in place right there. So George, could you read the goals for this phase?
BLC membership drive to sign up 50 new members in 5 regions: Northeast, Southeast, Southwest, Northwest, and Midwest. Use Wilf International Congress process to develop relationships with sections in Africa to advance the work of the UN International Decade for People of African Descent and Reparations, and develop anti-racism transformation materials.
Yeah, so the strategy team of the Black Liberation Caucus is now 4 people. It's George Friday, Shante McLaughlin, Darryl Moak, and me. And so we had a meeting yesterday, Darryl, George, and I. So George, Darryl, Shante, and I are on the strategy team. So what I want you to look at now are the list of individual allies. So George, can you make it bigger? And George, I need you to read all the names so we can make sure Mary Foster is on there. So the people who have agreed to be on the EDAC, Mary Foster, Janice Hawkins, and you misspell her name, George. She doesn't have a G in Hawkins. So take the G out. Sue Hilton is on the EDAC. Robin Lloyd is on the EDAC. Gloria McMillan is on the EDAC. Kim Porter is on the EDAC. And Samantha Turner. So Samantha, Kim, Gloria, Robin, Sue, Janice, Mary Foster, and Susan Smith. Oh, Susan Smith in Pittsburgh. So that's our 8 folks so far.
And Robin Lloyd? No? Sorry.
Robin Lloyd. Donna, you can't be added to the EDAC because you're not white, Donna.
I'm not white.
Are you white, Donna? Because if you're white, you shouldn't be in this meeting.
Teresa, I'm white.
Well, that's weird because I thought you said you were Native American.
Well, I'm part Native American, yes.
But you identify as European?
Well, no, I'm part Native American and part European and Canadian, Indian.
Well, you're not white, Donna.
It's like you got more Native American and Indigenous than you. You got two parts indigenous from the US and Canada and 1 part European. So I think you're more us than them.
Okay.
Cause
I wondered why I had never been invited to this meeting before. And I was so happy to be invited today.
Well, Donna, you've been invited numerous times.
Oh, I didn't know.
Because when I first met you and you talked about your family and your relationships,
Right.
and I think you even talked about having Black children.
I do. Well, I have great grandchildren and great grandchildren. My husband was Black African American, so it was our second marriage. So his son is a Black man, and then his daughters spent a lot of time with us, and now I'm very close to them, and she has 4 children. So I'm a step great grandmother to Black children, grandmother,
Well,
and
Donna, what you should know about the caucus is that all Black, Indigenous people of color are welcome in the Black Liberation Caucus. That was one of our points of agreement in the beginning, even though the caucus is called the Black Liberation Caucus. Rita Gonzalez identifies as Black Mexican. Uh, Rita's father was Black and her mother Mexican.
And Apache on my grandparents' side, at least my grandmother on my mother's side. So I'm a mix, but I'm a Black liberation person. So, you know, that's where I stand.
Well, good. So Donna, we want to make sure we settle that because I know what sometimes happens is that sometimes white people start talking about way back when they had a relative that was a Cherokee or whatever. But if you were raised white and you have not had any connection with communities of color, then you're white. But your description of your life is that you have been in diversity and inclusion all your life. Is that correct?
I'm a widow of a Black African-American man from Boston. And I live with a Caribbean man now, but Neil and I were together for 30 years, and that's why I'm part of the family. I was more welcomed into his family than parts of my family welcomed him in. I can say that for damn sure. So I live it every day here on Cape Cod. We're a mixed couple.
Well, we appreciate it because you're more indigenous than you are European. So I know many of us have, when we do our DNA, we find that we have all kinds of stuff in our family. But I was raised Black, and I'm real clear about being Black. So this is what I think we're gonna do with the allies list, friends. Alan Haber is based in Ann Arbor. So that's the Midwest. And he is very active in the UN Decade Reparations Subcommittee. So I'm gonna ask Alan Haber, and he'd probably wanna bring his wife too, Odile, who is a little strange acting from time to time, but she supports the Black Liberation Caucus and has said it openly. And I know that Alan Haber does. So we may have 11 members of the EDAC by next week. And George helped me with my geography because Nancy Price is in Davis, California. So where is Davis, California?
I would describe it as Northern California.
It is in Northern California, it's up near Sacramento, San Francisco area.
Right.
Oh, well, we will ask Nancy Price to be our other Northwest person. She's a part of the No to NATO committee. And so George, you had promised to do the ask with her.
Yes.
So if you can do the ask with Nancy Price, our work will be completed. And I will ask Alan Haber and Odile to round out the Midwest.
Great.
So can we reach agreement on that?
Yes.
So let's scroll over a little bit so we can see the strategic objectives and activities. George, go to the heading. So the heading. So this is the grid that we use, and I teach strategic planning. So these are a list of all of the activities that we've been doing since January. And the strategic objectives is to find branches. George, I think the southeast part is cut off on the strategic objectives. Can you bring that in? Okay, target branches for the art. You're messing it up. Oh, you had to go to a second page. So for the training, Daryl, that you're going to take the lead on developing, these are the branches that we want to do the training in. And so you see Cape Cod is one of the branches because branches that have a diverse population and have quite a few members of European descent, those are the target branches. So Boston only has 2 Black people in the branch. Burlington has no Black people in the branch. Donna, how many people of color in the Cape Cod branch?
We don't have any.
No, there's a woman who was working on the voting rights thing. Donna, you got to stop saying you're not a person of color.
Okay, who is working on the voting rights? Well, Ashley Carrington is the one who's doing.
No, I'm talking in the Cape Cod branch because there was a woman, her name started with an E, and I thought she was.
No, it's Alicia. Oh, Alicia Davis. She's full Native American, Mi'kmaq.
Yeah, so she's in Cape Cod, right?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
See, she's been invited to these meetings before.
Right, but unfortunately, she's in the end stages of hospice care right now.
Oh no.
Yes. Yeah. It's been going on for over a year now, and she's very near to leaving soon, I hope, because she's in a lot of distress.
Mm.
Yeah. She's been my best friend, and we did services at the Unitarian Church together, and we've sung together. She plays guitar. I'm just heartbroken every morning. I expect to get a text from her brother, but she hangs on. She's transgender too, so it's very complicated.
Well, I know she and I had kind of emailed each other back and forth.
Yes.
So I am so sorry to hear that, but there was, she never mentioned any health issue. So I am so surprised to hear this. Yeah. I am so sorry.
Yeah.
But I do know.
I was thinking of our active members, and so I completely left her out.
Well, who are some of the prominent white members? The woman who does the plays.
Oh, well, Elenita Muniz is Puerto Rican.
Yeah, that's who I've been communicating
with. Oh yeah,
with.
Elenita is one of the. I'm sorry. Yes, I just don't think that way. I guess. Yes, Elenita's Puerto Rican, and she's the kind of the leader of our branch. And Candace Perry up in Wellfleet writes the plays about racial with racial justice. She's from Louisiana. So
yeah, see, now Candace Perry is someone I know, and she's definitely European. So Donna, we're gonna work with you and try to help you be able to think in terms of racial justice.
Yes. Really. Thank you.
We'll help you because Donna did not mention it, but she's the newly elected chair of the Advancing Human Rights Committee. And so Donna is a very high-ranking person and will.
I'm just trying to figure it all out, Teresa, with your help.
Well, the thing that you should know, Daryl, is that all of the issue committees are headed by women of European descent, except the issue committee that Donna is leading. Now, Dee Murphy, I think, is starting a new issue committee. She signed up for the meeting today, but she's a no-show. So we're in the process of really consolidating. See, we're going to have a lot of folks from the DC branch in these meetings as we go forward, because the DC branch is overwhelmingly Black. So these are the target branches, Daryl, where the art training will take place and where many of our allies are. So you can see we want to do 20 branches. So George, help me count them. Boston, Burlington, Cape Cod, Greater Philadelphia, Pittsburgh, that's 5. Triangle is 6. Greater Phoenix is 7. Tucson is 8. Los Angeles is 9. San Diego is 10. Fresno is 11. Humboldt is 12. San Francisco East Bay is 13. Ann Arbor, Ypsilanti is 14. Des Moines is 15. And Madison is 16. So George, Daryl, you could see George hasn't done much work on the art piece, but now that you're on the strategy team, because George is overloaded with stuff, and so we want to make sure we build this work over the next 6 months. So come January of 2023, we'll have 2 years to complete our final goals. So George, if you could go all the way up to the last phase of the chart, where it's July of 2023 to December of 2024.
Sorry, it's hard to navigate. Once I make it larger, things move around and it's hard to navigate it. I'm working on it.
You can make it smaller. You can make it smaller.
I know, I'm working on it. Not too small though, there we go.
Yeah, so this is the final phase of the campaign, Daryl. So from July of 2023 to December 2024, we have to finalize the goals. See, we've already signed up approximately 60 members in this first 6 months because we started the DC branch and we've just been recruiting people like crazy. So the goal is to sign up 100 members a year. This year, 2023 and 2024. So at the end of the day, we will have 300 new members. So George, if you could read the goals, the final goals.
Reparation ordinances in 20 branches. The UN Decade/Reparations Subcommittee is taking lead.
George,
300, yes.
George, stop. It's reparations ordinances in 20 branch cities. So in 20 cities where we have branches, we're gonna pass government sponsored reparations ordinances. So we will do one in DC. We'll probably get one in Baltimore, and we'll get one in Metro Atlanta. We already have one going, so to speak, in Columbus. So we will be looking at 20 cities, and a lot of those cities will be the cities where the allies live. So then the next goal that we're working on now is 300 new members nationwide, which is 100 members per year. So for the second half of this year, we need to sign up an additional 50 members. And I know we can do it. And the very final goal for the 3-year strategy is what directly concerns you, Daryl. What we talked about yesterday is 20 branches that participate in the anti-racism transformation art training. So we're going to be working directly with members of the EDAC on their branches, hosting you and George and others who will be doing the training. So Darryl, do you understand?
Yes.
Because you're the new member to the strategy team. So the membership development part of the strategy, that's the work that Shante and I have taken responsibility for. Shante is a serious recruiter. So the Metro Atlanta branch is the largest branch in the South. And thanks to Shante, we've been able to accomplish that. And so Shante, Adrian is out of town until Tuesday, but you've got to get Cece Anderson and Adrian together so that you could build your steering committee. See, in the Fannie Lou Hamer branch, we have a steering committee and we work together on different things, like on the SPICE program and on Columbus organizing together. So we have work that we do together. And that's what kind of keeps us together, because most people don't want to come to a meeting just to come to a meeting. But when we meet, we're talking about strategy and community organizing. And that's what I think is going to happen in the DC DMV branch. So we're at about 5:15. So George, could you take down the screen? Now, George, the agenda, could you put that back up? So we've covered the BLC strategy chart review and update. George, you and I can work on the update that makes sure that the EDAC is on the strategic objective side. But you and I can deal with that later today or tomorrow. So we're down to announcements. The Fannie Lou Hamer branch did our first annual Human Rights Conference on December the 11th of 2021. The National WILF mini grant program gave us $1,500. So we were able to pay quite a few people who aren't members of WILF to staff the conference. This year, we're going to ask for $2,500 in a mini grant. And part of the conference will be on Zoom. So the first panel is going to be a shorter conference, is my proposal. But Deidre, Danita, and Destiny and I will talk about the format. So it's going to be 9 a.m. until noon. So from 9 a.m. until 10:30, we're going to have a panel that talks about the treaty prohibiting nuclear weapons. And it's going to involve members of the Congressional Black Caucus in Georgia. If we can get Barbara Lee or some of those other folks, great. You're going to help us get Eleanor Holmes Norton to be on the panel. So we're going to have Hank Johnson. We're going to have the woman, I think her name is Nakima, who replaced John Lewis. So there'll be about 3 Congressional Black Caucus members from Georgia, at least 3, maybe 4, because there are 4 Congressional Black Caucus members in Georgia. My congressman is Black, and he's in the Black Caucus, and he's already said that he could do the meeting. So that's going to be the panel from 9 until 10:30. Then we'll take a 15-minute break, and from 10 10:45 until 11:30. We'll have an in-person thing, Danita and Deidre, going on here in Columbus on ending mass incarceration. And that's going to be live streamed on Facebook. So that's the plans for the second annual Fannie Lou Hamer Human Rights Conference, which will be on December 10th. It's a Saturday of 2022. Any questions? Are there any other announcements? Well, the next meeting is July 31st, and Darryl, you and Lucy will be co-facilitating that meeting.
Let me make sure that I don't have a conflict.
Okay, because it's always 4 to 5:30.
Yeah, I may have it's on that's the 5th Sunday of the month.
Yeah.
I have something on my calendar that's for that whole week, and I don't know I can't tell what it is right now.
Well, Lucy could be the person, but see, we do a rotation. So we rotate through the branches, and the new DC branch is the only branch that hasn't been in the rotation. So Lucy will be back on the 5th of July. George is the coordinator of the facilitation. So George, it will be up to you to determine if Lucy is willing to facilitate, because the agenda is kind of standard. It depends on what the branch wants to put on it. But we always review the BOPA, and we always review the BLC strategy chart. We always have announcements.
Okay, we'll work it out.
Okay, good.
I mean, well, I know August, we couldn't move us to August because I won't be there on the August one. So probably better to try to figure out how to make July work.
Well, that sounds great. Well, we are at the end of my pre-birthday meeting. So George, what are those things in the chat?
There's my stuff. I'm not great at chat. And Donna put in some things. Do you want me to read those? I can save the chat and send it with everybody. Donna does not want me to read them. I can see her face moving, saying no. She's hee-hawing though. She's having a good laugh on it.
Well, because Donna just discovered she's a person of color. And that's kind of funny.
I wasn't thinking clearly, Teresa.
That is so funny to me. Because
we're having a heat wave. We're having a heat wave.
Yes,
a tropical heat wave. It got to my brain.
Well, Donna, when I first met you, it was always clear to me that you were an Indigenous woman.
You bet it. You bet that. Yep.
So, you know, Cape Cod is a really white place.
Yes,
so I can see how you got confused. But we are ending your confusion. We're ending